FinTech is going to put bankers out of business.
So there's going to be somebody who's going to be like the Amazon of banking, who's going to wipe out the bankers. It was disclosed that Warren Buffett has dumped all of his banking stocks. He's dumped JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs.
Now, with that being said, I would actually take you guys to the next area, right? Because that is the beginning, right? Now, with that beginning, I will ask you guys, what do you see? What do you really think Ripple, the company, is doing? They are giving weapons to payment processes and small banks to fight against giant banks in payments. And then they go to the big banks and says, if you want to survive, you can use our help. Now they are coming up with different products which they can use, the big banks can use to survive. So earlier this year, if you are looking at this article came up showing they are going to eat, like the fintech will eventually eat the banks. Based on what you can understand from these articles is currently easy. If you read this, you can get into this easily. Because as we said, the weapons are being delivered to financial institutions, payment providers, and all across the board. And Ripple, the company, is expanding. There is no doubt in that. It really is happening. And there is no doubt there is a huge banking crisis ahead. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. If you saw value for your time, please do support the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. If you would like to get more value for your portfolio, you can see the Patreon link given in the description. If you would like to support the channel, you can use the PayPal and XRP wallet address given in the description. Now look at what is happening. China is coming up with a digital yuan, and Huawei is coming up with a wallet for digital yuan, the CBDC wallet. Wow, that's a cool rate of adoption at which they are pumping. So now let's actually start from here to understand what really is happening around, because you need to know the background, right? What is happening with money, what's happening with banks, what's happening with, the pension funds, and why all of these are coming true.
70s, they don't have any pensions. Look at the state of California. They have the biggest pension plan in America is called CalPERS. It's the pension plan for school teachers, police officers, and firefighters. It's got no money in it. So what that means is, again, the Federal Reserve Bank and the Treasury will have to print more money. So if they print more money, what does that do to the price of gold and silver and Bitcoin? That's the question. So I'm not saying...
So what Robert highlighted here is that there is an underlying issue with the current financial system, current banking networks, current system, how it works. So if there is an issue like that, what should we understand? Being either an established investor or a newbie investor in this space, what should you actually understand? So we kind of look at what other huge investors do, not what they say, right? So that's where I'm taking you next.
News of all was just recently, in the last few weeks, it was disclosed that Warren Buffett has dumped all of his banking stocks. He's dumped JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Visa. He's dumping all of his banking stocks, and he's also dumping all of his airline stocks.
Now, why is it important for us to understand what Buffett is doing, right? Because we all know that he is the Warren Buffett, one of the established and successful investors of all time. Now, why is it so important? Because the strategy of Warren Buffett is long run, right? He used to invest for long run. So he is looking at some change coming soon, and it is going to be established in the long run, a new financial system.
Our pensions are going broke, and Buffett is dumping his banking shares. Goldman Sachs is a pretty big bank, and Wells Fargo and those banks. The question is, what does that mean? Why would Buffett dump banking stocks? And why would he dump airline stocks? Is what he's doing, he always says to you, well, invest, for the long term. But why is he dumping his bank stocks? And why is he dumping airline stocks? Doubt this crisis is coming. Investment crisis is a very important crisis because myself, Harry Dent, and the other speakers will be telling you about the crisis. There is no doubt this crisis is coming. The only question is, what are you going to do about it?
So now the question is, there is a huge change coming, and the crash is there is no doubt it's going to happen. And it looks like it's going to be a banking collapse and a huge economic depression similar to that of 1928. So that was a huge change in the market. It raised or wiped out a lot of uneducated guys in the sense of financial education. So what are we really looking at? Because if this is happening, there is a reason behind this, and you have to listen to this part because that really gets interesting, because we are XRP investors. Why we do invest in that one? Yes, of course it's for profit, but why? Because of that technology which is bringing that ability into the table.
So if Buffett is going to dump the banking stocks, does that mean we're going to have a banking collapse? That's the question. I think we're heading into a depression, and it'll be a long depression. I think we're back in 1928 right now. And it doesn't make a difference if President Trump gets reelected or Biden gets elected, because the problem is bigger than the office. So if Buffett is dumping bank stocks, what are you going to do? If there's a depression, what are you going to do? Company.
So now this technology is coming out, and it's creating a huge change. Say driverless trucks are coming, it will kind of wipe out the truck drivers' jobs. Autopilot version of flights are coming, it's kicking out pilots out of job. And now the new technology brought in by blockchain and DLT is kind of pushing out the brick and mortar banks. So it really is happening in and around us, right? So if we concentrate and look at what it really is happening, say for banks, you can ask, so what about banks? With Ripple is going to partner with them, they are providing the software, blah, blah, blah. So what about them? Will they survive? That is kind of a huge question, right? And why does this change come? Or why is it still here?
Truck builder, they announced they'll have a driverless truck on the road in America in 2021. Now, a driverless truck, what does that mean? That means there's 3 million truck drivers in the future who are out of work. We don't need drivers. The lesson is technology replaces human beings. As a pilot, I went there. They're drones. The drones can fly by. Airline, that's why Buffett's dumping airlines. All these pilots, they're losing their jobs. And what happens is little drones fly up ahead. They don't need pilots. So why would Buffett be dumping banking shares? You know why? It's because when they go to cryptocurrency, when the US dollar goes cyber, we don't need banks anymore. Think about that. I was just in China. I use my little iPhone, and I don't need cash. So not only are pilots and truck drivers going to lose their jobs, so are the bankers. So the banker you go to on your little street corner, they're gone. All those little offices with like Wells Fargo Bank in America and...
So banks are going to go out of business. Okay, we understood that. So what about the payments, right? There should be something. Who should be the next king? Like if banks are going out of business, something has to replace it. Here he just named crypto in general, but we previously have heard Ripple stating directly, we are now Amazon books, but we intend becoming Amazon of payments. If you remember that from Brad Garlinghouse, you would be confident enough to listen to the next one.
The reason the banks are going out of business is because when they go to cryptocurrency, which they already started, you don't need the corner bank. You can use your iPhone and you don't need bankers. And so the people that will replace bankers, think of how Amazon wiped out the mom and pop shops. So there's going to be somebody who's going to be like the Amazon of banking, who's going to wipe out the bankers.
Now, as you listen to that, you would be having a question. Okay. So there would be an Amazon coming out, which would be wiping out banks. So a new type of Amazon dominating the banking industry, say the payments, lending, and other stuff, right? So what would it be? There would be a different question. So you would actually, now that was the perspective he laid out in one of his video. And then if you would like to get more, you would really have to go through all of his speeches and understand what he really is trying to explain, right? So if you compare with this one, say this came out October 19th and this one just 2 days after that. So listen to what he's repeating here, but with a little bit more clarity.
But I think one of the more interesting words you used today is fintech. And the reason fintech is important, in my opinion, is because fintech is going to put bankers out of business. So just as there's pilots who are unemployed today, fintech is going to make a lot of bankers unemployed also.
Now I think you kind of understand where I'm taking this, because it really does means fintechs are eating the lunch, dinner of the banks. They are now just surviving with the breakfast, and it's going to be taken out soon, because once the regulation hits, majority would be moving into this area. Because if, say, the common man, not everyone is adopting crypto. If you look at the population, 7 billion human beings, not all of them are going to use crypto in next 1 year, 3 year, or 5 year. It will only be the smartest guys who are looking for alternative investments moving into this, right? So still, the usual remittance market would not directly go to banks. They understand that there is competition happening. They have, say, the TransferWise, SendBees, and other fintechs to do this. So they currently understand that. And now within those fintechs, they are looking for which one is better, who gives me more value, right? So automatically, those companies who are partnering with Ripple are having more advantage. I gave you the example of SendBee previously, right? So in the same aspect, it really is happening. Now, if we look at different corridors, you can see that Ripple is expanding. See, this is British payment sector. Now, if you look at another one in Euro payments, so one was in pound sterling, now it's in Euro. Then you can see another one going live. So one by one, you can see that RippleNet is processing a huge amount of payments in different corridors, and they are expanding in Europe as well. So as they state, they can move to London, Singapore, or Japan. They can move there, but still the issue of regulation is still there, right? Once the regulatory clarity hits the ground, then it would be a huge change. Now, there is no question about a central bank digital currency, because if you look at Bank of Canada, Japan, England, everyone is talking high on this technology because they understand it is needful for the survival. It's not like they want it. It's they need it. They don't have any other choice to survive because of the huge pile of debt. If you look, say, before this crisis, the GDP, if you take globally, would be, say, 80 trillion. But at the same time, the debt was like 250 trillion. So what are you going to do with this extra debt? How are you going to wipe this out? Either there should be a huge deflationary event, or there should be, complete debt forgiveness. And I don't think that's going to be the case. You're going to forgive the entire debt because that's a massive amount. So you need a new reset. And such a reset is coming now. At least central banks are trying to be inside that reset. They want to stay relevant. They want to still control it. And that's why, say, if you look at an authoritarian state like China, they have already done that. And the companies working within that country, do understand this is the future and they are coming out with this. If you look what happened with Samsung, they came out with the cryptocurrency wallets. As soon as they started that to understand, yes, it's changing. Your bank is kind of in your mobile. You don't actually need to go to the online banking app of a bank, which is, the back-end processing is still the same. They are just putting out a different front layer. Still, the friction is there. Why? Because the back-end settling is still the same. So as you move and understand that the adoption is going mainstream, there is also one more thing. Why? Yes, we don't completely agree with this kind of stuff which comes out from World Economic Forum, United States and all. But if you really look at this aspect, which is climate change, environmental change, that kind of an aggressiveness towards sustainable green environment, then you are looking at a less energy consumption item to use for your technology. If you're going to adopt that, you are definitely going to look at a technology which would give you an upper hand in that aspect, right? So when we talk about this, you do have to understand there are articles which kind of pops out like this. Now that comes up from Wazirex. So if you read through that, they argue, now they put out different perspectives, and kind of at the end they kind of summarizes or concludes that it's not like other cryptocurrencies. Now, yes, we do agree that it's not like other cryptocurrencies, but they say it's centralized. Now, in this aspect, they are using the quantity of XRP, which is, not owned by the common man, or it's owned by Ripple itself. They are arguing that that is the reason for centralization. Now, it's completely up to them to believe it or not. If you look at the Bitcoin and check who owns the majority, there would be a limited number of addresses. Who owns majority? Does that mean it is centralized? Now look at the transaction, how it is being approved, right? Miners are there mining the block. This process has to continue, and that is where you can understand the real centralization is there. If you look at the majority of miners, they are in China, right? If just Chinese government is going to say, no, we are not going to allow this, that's the end. At least there would be a huge drop in mining power. In the same aspect, if you look at Ripple, even they understand that the validation, the process is kind of, the percentage of validators from RippleNet is really low. Now, yes, you can choose the number of validators which you want based on how you are going to choose. Say everyone is going to be a reputed institution, 1, a regulated institution, 2. So if you are sending money using RippleNet, automatically from the sending end and the receiving end, it would be a regulated financial institution. And that is why the partnerships are going successful. Now, not everyone kind of looks into all of these aspects and say, yes, there is a future, and that future looks like it is going to be a digital asset, which will be serving as a reserve bridge or vehicle asset for the world of cross-border payments. Now here Brad Garlinghouse highlights, congrats on a very strong quarter. Proud to be a partner in MoneyGram International's growth and transformation. So there is no doubt they understand the benefit of their consumers, and for the part of Ripple, their customer is MGI, right? So as you move further, you already understand that. Now we showed you previously, right? The Nostro Vostro kind of stuff is there. Now I'm highlighting this in a different perspective. Now if you look at this, there is friction, and the total amount in the Nostro Vostro is like, say, in trillions, say 10 to 20 trillion. It's being highlighted by McKinsey previously, like $27 trillion. So let's assume, say 10, 20, whatever it is. If, as we just heard, a banking crisis is coming, a liquidity need for banks are rising, where will they first go? Will they just jump into the central banks and ask for more and more? Or would it be easy for them to unlock these dormant capitals and then use liquidity on demand? And you have the on-demand liquidity platform to do that. You really have to look at the future. If Buffett is looking at a long run and dumping his banking stocks, he do understand that there is going to be a huge change. Now look at other institutions, say BlockFi, say any other institution which kind of allow you to trade or custody your assets. Say now recently we just heard from eToro, an exchange, that they are allowing Spark tokens for XRP holders. Now if you are holding your XRP in that one, you are not holding your dollars, right? Automatically you do understand, instead of holding dollar, euro or any other fiat in your portfolio, a little bit is okay for a rainy day. If there is a long week down, you can buy, like that stuff is okay, but not the majority. For me, I would be investing in an asset which I believe is going to have value in the future. So instead of saving money, I would be accumulating that particular asset. Yes, that's like all of my eggs in one basket, but I do believe this technology and the value it's going to be providing in the future. Now, for that, there are current limitations, setbacks, which is, the status quo will not allow someone to directly jump in and eat their food. They will fight back, and that fight we can actually see in these delays. But the world is entering into that area where you need regulations for this. When you are giving regulatory clarity for BTC, Ether, where there is no anything related to climate change or the domination by Chinese miners who are using that, they don't actually even look at a US based company who are working to promote this technology, then XRP Ledger, an open source technology created in US. So once this is going to come out, that is going to be huge, because at the same time we can also understand, if you go look at the recent talk from Brian, you are going to enjoy that, because we are going to enter into a new phase where money is going to be completely digital. And as Ripple previously stated, you won't even know if XRP Ledger is being used. You'll just understand that the service which you got is much better. There is less fee and your delivery of money at the destination was quick. That was an instantaneous transfer. So that's all we need as an XRP investor, because automatically the price would be shooting up. If you are a traditional guy who is still saving money in your bank, I hope this would raise a little bit of awareness for you as an investor to think like an investor. Instead of saving money, you can look at assets on which you can put your money, and your money in that asset will work for you eventually. Instead of it's staying in a savings account or even a fixed deposit in a bank account, which gives you a little bit of interest rate, which you don't understand is just erased by the rate of inflation in your country. So if you're looking at India, they'll say, yeah, I get like 7 to 8% of interest rate, but you don't understand that the inflation rate is also similar. So it's like you are not getting any purchasing power, additional purchasing power, when the banks are holding it. Look at the globe. If you understand, around the world there are negative interest rates. That means if you're putting your money in a bank, you should be paying extra money to them to hold your money. So why would you actually do that? Instead, you can go into XRP, Bitcoin, Ether, whichever currency you like. It's completely up to you, because these are decentralized technology, and those investors who do understand this are going in. If you look at giant investors, even like Tudor guy, he went in Bitcoin. Now, yes, because of the regulatory clarity, majority are jumping in to that bandwagon, not in XRP, because not everyone understands this. But those who understand this are not actually so loud informing you guys. Why? Because they don't want you to be profitable. Unless you are someone who is trying to give you proper information, using which you can take a educated, calculated guess, it's a different story. So guys, I hope you received value for your time, and if you did, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. If you would like to extend your support, you can use PayPal, Patreon, or the XRP wallet address given in the description below. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.